Shorter people run higher risk of diabetes study. Shorter people are at greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes, according to a study published last Tuesday. Each additional 10 centimeters in height translates into a 41% smaller chance of contracting the disease in men and a 33% smaller chance in women, according to the research in medical journal Diabetology. The greater health risk in shorter individuals is likely linked to high liver fat content and a large number of risk factors for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, the author speculated. It has also been reported that insulin sensitivity and the functioning of special cells in the pancreas that secrete the hormone are better in taller people. The study draws from a detailed medical survey of more than 16,600 women and nearly 11,000 men aged 40 to 65 in Potsdam, Germany from 1994 to 1998. These observations corroborate that height is a useful predictive marker for diabetes risk, the author conclude. People with diabetes have excessively high blood glucose, which comes from food. Some 420 million people around Some 422 million people around the world today suffer from diabetes, with the number expected to rise to 629 million by 2045, according to the International Diabetes Federation. Currently, the disease is divided into two subtypes, with type 1 generally diagnosed in the childhood and accounting for about 10% of cases. The body simply doesn't make insulin, a hormone that helps regulate blood sugar levels. For type 2, the blood makes some insulin but not enough, which means glucose stays in the blood. This form of the disease correlates high with obesity and can over time lead to blindness, kidney damage, heart disease, or stroke. Acute cases may also require limb amputation.
Shorter people run higher risk of diabetes. Study.
Study.
Shorter
Shorter
people are at
people
greater
are at
risk of
great risk
developing
of
type 2
developing type
diabetes,
2
according
diabetes,
to a study
according to a
published
study
last
published
Tuesday.
last Tuesday.
Each additional 10 centimeters in height translates into a 41% smaller chance of contracting the disease in men and a 33% smaller chance in women, according to the research in medical journal Diabetologia. The greater health risk in shorter individuals is likely linked to higher liver fat content and a larger number of risk factors for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, the author speculated. It has also been reported that insulin sensitivity and the functioning of special cells in the pancreas that secrete the hormone are better in taller people. The study draws from a detailed medical survey of more than 16,600 women and nearly 11,000 men, aged 40 to 65, in Potsdam, Germany, from 1994 to 1998. These observations corroborate that height is a useful predictive marker for diabetes risk, the authors concluded. People with diabetes have excessively high blood glucose, which comes from food. Some 420 million people around the world today suffer from diabetes, with the number expected to rise to 629 million by 2045, according to the International Diabetes Federation. Currently, the disease is divided into two subtypes, with type 1 generally diagnosed in childhood and accounting for about 10% of cases. The body simply doesn't make insulin, a hormone that helps regulate blood sugar levels. For type 2, the body makes some insulin, but not enough, which means glucose stays in the blood. This form of the disease correlates highly with obesity and can, over time, lead to blindness, kidney damage, heart disease, or stroke. Acute cases may also require limb amputations.
EU downbeat after Johnson-Juncker Brexit talks. Britain has not proposed any workable alternatives to its Brexit withdrawal agreement. The EU said Monday after talks with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson ended without a breakthrough. It said a meeting between Johnson and EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker failed to yield any alternative to proposals on the Northern Ireland border that the British leader has rejected. Johnson has vowed to take Britain out of the bloc by the scheduled date of October 31st, though Parliament has ordered him not to do so without striking a deal with Brussels first. Businesses and opponents of Brexit say living without a deal will cause economic chaos as Britain ends its open trade ties to the European after 46 years. And its open trade ties. Open trade ties to the European Union after 46 years, after a weekend in which he compared himself to comic book Super Smasher Hulk. The British leader enjoyed a genteel working lunch of chicken and pork with Juncker in Luxembourg. Downing Street billed the Luxembourg visit as part of efforts to negotiate an orderly divorce from the Union before the October 17th EU summit. It insisted it had been a constructive meeting and said the two sides had agreed to step the pace of talks with daily meetings between negotiators. But the Commission gave a more sober assessment, saying that once again the UK had failed to come up with a viable alternative to the so-called Irish backstop border arrangement. President Juncker recalled that it is the UK's responsibility to come forward with legally operational solutions that are compatible with the withdrawal agreement, a statement from Johnson's office said. President Juncker underlined the Commission's continued willingness and openness to examine whether such proposals meet the objective of the backstop such proposals have not yet been made. President Juncker underlined the Commission's continued willingness and openness to examine whether such proposals meet the objective of the backstop. Such proposals have not yet been made.
EU downbeat after Johnson-Juncker Brexit talks. Britain has not proposed any workable alternatives to its Brexit withdrawal agreement, the EU said Monday after talks with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson ended without a breakthrough. It said the meeting between Johnson and EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker failed to yield any alternative to proposals on the Northern Ireland border that the British leader has rejected. Johnson has vowed to take Britain out of the bloc by the scheduled date of October 31st, though Parliament has ordered him not to do so without striking a deal with Brussels first. Businesses and opponents of Brexit say leaving without a deal will cause economic chaos as Britain ends its open trade ties to the European Union after 46 years. After a weekend in which he compared himself to comic book super smasher Hulk, the British leader enjoyed a genteel working lunch of chicken and pollock with Juncker in Luxembourg. Downing Street billed the Luxembourg visit as part of efforts to negotiate an orderly divorce from the Union before an October 17 EU summit. It insisted it had been a constructive meeting and said the two sides had agreed to step up the pace of talks with daily meetings between negotiators. But the Commission gave a more sober assessment, saying that once again the UK had failed to come up with a viable alternative to the so-called Irish backstop border arrangement. President Juncker recalled that it is the UK's responsibility to come forward with legally operational solutions that are compatible with the withdrawal agreement, a statement from Juncker's office said. President Juncker underlined the Commission's continued willingness and openness to examine whether such proposals meet the objectives of the backstop. Such proposals have not yet been
made. China to tap strategic meat reserves as pork prices soar. China is considering tapping into its strategic frozen reserves of meat, its top economic planner said as it grapples with the swine fever outbreak. Ripped through its massive pig farm industry. Authorities are scrambling to contain the outbreak, calling or killing more than 1 million pigs as prices of the country's staple meat have soared amid severe shortage. We have sufficient material resources, effective policy tools, and experience in regulation and control, said Peng Shaozhong, director of the Pricing Department at the National Development of Reform Commission. We are confident that we can cope with the challenges, resolve risks, and do a good job in maintaining prices of the live pig. The prices of pork has been edging up for months and was 46.7% higher in August compared with last year. The crisis has forced authorities to consider dipping into strategic meat reserves. The crisis has forced authorities to consider dipping into strategic meat reserves. The move comes ahead of a week-long celebration of Communist China's 70th anniversary in October and Lunar New Year's festivities in late January, when families gather for reunion feasts. The number of pigs killed as a result of the outbreak is widely believed to be much higher than 1.1 million, as the official data shows China's pig herd totaling 347.6 million in the first half of the year, down 60 million from the same period last year. China is home to nearly half of the world's live pig supply. Beijing has also announced the subsidies range from 5,100 yuan to 5 million yuan, about $70,500 to $704,500 to big pig breeders to boost production, state news agency Xinhua reported.
China to tap strategic meat reserves as pork prices soar. China is considering tapping into its strategic frozen reserves of meat. Its top economic planner said as it grapples with a swine fever outbreak that has ripped through its massive pig farming industry. Authorities are scrambling to contain the outbreak, culling or killing more than 1 million pigs, as prices of the country's staple meat have soared amid severe shortages. We have sufficient material resources, effective policy tools, and experience in regulation and control, said Peng Xiaozhong, director of the Pricing Department at the National Development and Reform Commission. We are confident that we can cope with challenges, resolve risks, and do a good job in maintaining prices of live pigs. The price of pork has been edging up for months and was 46.7% higher in August compared with last year. The crisis has forced authorities to consider dipping into strategic meat reserves. The move comes ahead of a week-long celebration of Communist China's 70th anniversary in October and Lunar New Year festivities in late January, when families gather for reunion feasts. The number of pigs culled as a result of the outbreak is widely believed to be much higher than 1.1 million, as official data shows China's pig herd totaled 347.6 million in the first half of the year, down 60 million from the same period last year. China is home to nearly half of the world's live pig supply. Beijing has also announced subsidies ranging from 500,000 yuan to 5 million yuan, about $70,500 to $702,500, to big pig breeders to boost production, state news agency Xinhua reported. Shorter people run higher risk of diabetes. Study. Shorter people are at greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes, according to a study published last Tuesday. Each additional 10 centimeters in height translates into a 41% smaller chance of contracting the disease in men, and a 33% smaller chance in women, according to the research in medical journal Diabetologia. The greater health risk in shorter individuals is likely linked to higher liver fat content and a larger number of risk factors for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, the authors speculated. It has also been reported that insulin sensitivity and the functioning of special cells in the pancreas that secrete the hormone are better in taller people. The study draws from a detailed medical survey of more than 16,600 women and nearly 11,000 men aged 40 to 65 in Potsdam, Germany from 1994 to 1998. These observations corroborate that height is a useful predictive marker for diabetes risk. The authors concluded, people with diabetes have excessively high blood glucose, which comes from food. Some 420 million people around the world today suffer from diabetes, with the number expected to rise to 629 million by 2045, according to the International Diabetes Federation. Currently, the disease disease is divided into two subtypes, with type 1 generally diagnosed in childhood and accounting for about 10% of cases. The body simply doesn't make insulin, a hormone that helps regulate blood sugar levels. For type 2, the body makes some insulin, but not enough, which means glucose stays in the blood. This form of the disease correlates highly with obesity and can, over time, lead to blindness, kidney damage, heart disease, or stroke. Acute cases may also require limb amputations.
EU downbeat after Johnson-Juncker Brexit talks. Britain has not proposed any workable alternatives to its Brexit withdrawal agreement, the EU said Monday after talks with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson ended without a breakthrough. It said the meeting between Johnson and EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker failed to yield any alternative to proposals on the Northern Ireland border that the British leader has rejected. Johnson has vowed to take Britain out of the bloc by the scheduled date of October 31st, though Parliament has ordered him not to do so without striking a deal with Brussels first. Businesses and opponents of Brexit say leaving without a deal will cause economic chaos as Britain ends its open trade ties to the European Union after 46 years. After a weekend in which he compared himself to comic book super smasher Hulk, the British leader enjoyed a genteel working lunch of chicken and pullet with Juncker in Luxembourg. Downing Street billed the Luxembourg visit as part of efforts to negotiate an orderly divorce from the Union before an October 17 EU summit. It insisted it had been a constructive meeting and said the two sides had agreed to step up the pace of talks with daily meetings between negotiators. But the Commission gave a more sober assessment, saying that once again the UK had failed to come up with a viable alternative to the so-called Irish backstop border arrangement. President Juncker recalled that it is the UK's responsibility to come forward with legally operational solutions that are compatible with the withdrawal agreement. A statement from Juncker's office said, President Juncker underlined the Commission's continued willingness and openness to examine whether such proposals meet the objectives of the backstop. Such proposals have not yet been made.
China to tap strategic meat reserves as pork prices soar. China is considering tapping into its strategic frozen reserves of meat, its top economic planner said, as it grapples with a swine fever outbreak that has ripped through its massive pig farming industry. Authorities are scrambling to contain the outbreak, culling or killing more than 1 million pigs, as prices of the country's staple meat have soared amid severe shortages. We have sufficient material resources, effective policy tools, and experience in regulation and control, said Peng Xiaozhong, director of the pricing department at the National Development and Reform Commission. We are confident that we can cope with challenges, resolve risks, and do a good job in maintaining prices of live pigs. The price of pork has been edging up for months and was 46.7% higher in August compared with last year. The crisis has forced authorities to consider dipping into strategic meat reserves. The move comes ahead of a week-long celebration of Communist China's 70th anniversary in October and Lunar New Year festivities in late January, when families gather for reunion feasts. The number of pigs culled as a result of the outbreak is widely believed to be much higher than 1.1 million, as official data shows China's pig herd totaled 347.6 million in the first half of the year, down 60 million from the same period last year. China is home to nearly half of the world's live pig supply. Beijing has also announced subsidies ranging from 500,000 yuan to 5 million yuan, about $70,500 to $702,500, to big pig breeders to boost production, state news agency Xinhua reported.